Hey guys, welcome back to Tamers Talk. We have a very special episode today, one that I have just been dying to do. We have a very special guest. Everybody give a warm welcome. Joe, what's up?
Hey guys.
For those of you who have seen the channel in the past, Joe has been on the channel a couple times. He's had a deck profile video. He's done box openings, case openings. But now Joe has a relatively new role as far as, being on the channel, right? And that is one of the owners of the card shop that we so frequent. And it's a big anniversary happening. Why don't you tell us about that?
So we finally hit our 1 year anniversary in full ownership. Right before then, it was May 19th last year, we paid for the rights to own. I was working under the old owner, and we were operating. That's when you guys... Right before I started working under Thomas was when you guys started the channel.
Yep.
Which was really, really cool. So really close to the time you guys started is when I started doing it for Wayward, which is really cool. But we've been in business under our ownership for a year. Finally, yesterday.
That's so huge. That's awesome, man. The fact that the shop has been going so strong, our Digimon scene is insane. And not only that, you come into Wayward any day of the week, you always see the tables full of other games. You see people coming up to the counter to buy singles. You're taking, you're doing all the right things. And we just love seeing the way Wayward has been developing. And again, I'm very excited to do this episode because we get like the insider scoop of what it's like behind the scenes, right? Jesse and I, we just get to like come hang out, come play our cards, talk a little bit on a YouTube channel. We don't have to do all the logistics that you have to.
No.
Yeah. So tell us, so like you had said previously, right, before you took ownership of the shop, you were working for the previous owner.
Yes.
Is that something that you kind of had always wanted to do? Because I know you've always had such a strong interest in card games and,
So growing up, I wanted to develop video games.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to make a video game.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like a passion thing that I always wanted to do.
Sure.
But once I hit, I think I was 12 or 13 years old,
Yeah.
me and one of our regulars were hanging out. We started playing card games together pretty heavily, started playing them a little bit more competitively. And we talked about opening up a video game card shop situation. This is back when I was like 12, 13 years old.
I feel like that's a lot of people's dreams at that age. It's like, I want to, do all these games, all the hobbies that I love, and I want to spread that love with everyone else that I can.
It takes, making it from a dream to a reality takes a way different situation. And you were kind of asking about it as a player, because I am a player first.
Yes.
As a player, you kind of see it in situations like pre-release yesterday. Everyone's sitting there trading and trading and trading. And I have all the stuff that we opened because that's how we do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like hearing people like, I need 30 cards. There's only 3 of them available. And I'm like, I got all of them.
Yeah,
I don't want to buy them. I don't want to buy them yet. So you do feel like you can't really like communicate that way. Like I can't be like, hey, I can trade you this for this really quick. Even in a pre-release situation, because there's a cash register between us now.
Yeah.
So it is a little dividing, but it's a blast.
Yeah. So you're in the fortunate position where you do get to get high on your own supply. That's pretty neat.
Slightly. We do pay into our own singles. It's not like we're necessarily just taking them straight.
Doesn't matter. You're the owner. You're the boss. You get to do whatever you want anyways. No, but I mean, the fact that you were able to, honestly, this is like a perfect situation, right? For anybody trying to advance themselves in life. Example in my life, right? With my wife. My wife, when we first started dating, she had really wanted to get into veterinary stuff, like animal medicine. And I had told her, I was like, why don't you just go volunteer? Like, just see if you can, like, do anything to help at, like, the Humane Society, whatever. And she walked in to volunteer to kind of start getting that, like, hands-on experience. And they offered her a job on the spot. So I tell a lot of people, like, if you're trying to get into a field, whatever it is, the worst thing you can do is, is not ask. You never know what's going to happen if you don't put yourself out there. Try to just, like, go ask the questions. So you had that awesome experience of having not been the owner, a year ago or a little more than a year ago now, where you were working with the previous owner. What was that like? How did you get into that? What did you learn from that? Did that make you like card games more? Did it make it worse?
working under the old owner, let's just can I sit on that for a second?
Yeah, you don't have to talk about him at all if you don't want to.
No,
I was just
he's a wonderful man.
Yeah.
He's a really great guy. He is a businessman first.
Yep.
And that's something that you saw when walking into his shop. Everything was really clean and collected.
Yep.
But everything was very, this is the way. It's like walking into a grocery store.
Yeah.
You don't ask a question, you just know.
Yeah.
It was one of those environments, and it was really awesome to experience the way it was being upheld and why it was set up the way it was.
Yeah.
We ended up working into like Wizards Premium, which is a short list of, I think right now there's only 1,200 worldwide stores on the list.
That's crazy.
We worked up into that before the ownership swapped.
Yep.
It was a phenomenal experience. It was a huge learning experience.
Like the fact that you got to learn about that while not having all of your, because at the time, like I said, you weren't the owner. You didn't have all your stake into it, right? But you had the wonderful opportunity to learn and get that like experience. That experience is something money can't buy.
No, not at all.
Right. Like if somebody who had never worked at a card shop went to go start a card shop, they'd have to learn everything that you had been working for. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. Such an invaluable experience. Is there anything crazy cool that you learned in that process?
The way product is set on shelves is important
to
not sales, but visibility of things.
Yeah.
For some games, you have to put them right up front, or no one will know about them, or no one will see them. We're in a card shop that would be considered a jack of all trades card store. We're not just a Magic shop or a Bandai shop. Yeah. We do support all of them very heavily, but we support all of them very heavily.
Yep.
Going through all the product reels and all the product placements, there are games that are, if we're not up front, you're not gonna have us. And having that type of situation is something that, as a customer, you would have no idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Like for me, I just like to go in and hand my wallet over and say, "Give me some stuff that I need." It's I don't have to worry about getting the product. I don't have to worry about stocking it, making it look nice, getting the whole area presentable to be able to play these games with people. So, I mean, huge shout out to you. Huge shout out to the whole Wayward City crew. We love it there. We're so happy. So this kind of ties into a question. So I had put out a feel on our in our Discord. There is a 2 Tamers Q&A section, and I had put out a feeler. I said, hey, we're having a very special guest. If you want to talk about card game ownership, ask some questions. So this is the question that we got from Crimson Greymon. He says, I live in an area with no Digimon card scene. I know of a handful of players in the area, and there's a Bandai card shop that only does One Piece. What advice would you have to get a scene going? Would I have to learn how to be a judge to host any tournaments and partner with the card shop? Any advice would be appreciated.
As a shop organizer, before even being a store owner, all you have to do is organize the events. For pre-releases and anything below pre-releases, anything that's not store champ level, Evo Cup level, you do not need a judge, period. There's nothing in the rules that state you need it. It actually says in the rules for those events, it's a suggestion to have one.
Sure.
So there's no need to start with full knowledge. You can start from scratch. We started from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you can do is gain enough players to be able to host an event.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to have that many to fire for Bandai.
Yep.
You need 4. So as long as you have 4 players and a shop who's willing to place a completely free application.
Yep. Yeah.
That's all you need. That said, I don't necessarily know how openly they want me to just send out their link to become affiliate. So I'm not going to state that right now. If you needed to reach out, you guys can absolutely reach out to me, and I'll not hand it out like candy, but I'll vet it out to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this question was really important to me because I was taken back to the very beginning when you and I would meet up at a different card shop way before Wayward.
Yeah.
And I remember you going behind the counter of this shop when this particular shop didn't do anything with Bandai. And you'd be setting up the tournaments, taking in the results of the tournaments back when we had about 4 or 5, whatever, every Friday. You remember those days? And that's another reason why not only are you and I great friends because of this, but I just rely on you as someone who knows how to set up a card game scene, right? So a little bit of a backstory, you know, there was a very, very small scene when the game first started, back BT1, BT2, BT3, etc., 1.0, 1.5 for those of the English releases.
Yeah.
And just finding a card shop to play was difficult. And this was kind of before we had Bandai TCG Plus.
Yeah.
Right? You had to like Google, you had to call shops, wherever you ended up buying boxes, but you know, because they weren't at every shop back then.
I can't even remember how the old owner had access to that stuff.
Yeah.
Because this is a card shop that has closed its doors since, so I think that name dropping them is fair. It was a card shop out in Gresham called the Yu-Gi-Oh outlet.
Yeah, it was. We loved playing there.
It's name forward. He did Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yep.
And that's all he did.
Yep.
He did a couple of other things very small, but he picked up the Bandai card game, Digimon. Years prior, he didn't start Dragon Ball Super. And so when he got it, I was really interested.
Yeah.
Because back in, I want to say it was 2012 or 2013, there was a huge petition to get Digimon Cyber Sleuth localized to us.
Yeah. Before the game was even in English, right? Like,
a lot of players who love the Digimon card game now wouldn't even know that we don't have English access, subtitled access.
Yeah.
To a lot of Digimon
crazy to
stuff.
think about.
And I was one of the shortlist people on that petition. So when I heard that there was a card game, I was super stoked.
Yeah. I
got a starter deck and I was like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I was not necessarily helping the shop with Yu-Gi-Oh before, but I was taking results and, you know, making his life easier prior.
Yep.
And so I asked him, I was like, what does it take to play the card games? He made an email and we started what, to my knowledge, is the very first tournament
I think so.
shop in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
We fired in week 2 of Super pre-release with TP1 support.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, not to toot the horn, but we had 8-ish players after about 3 weeks. It was really, really interesting. It was really awesome.
Yeah, we grew really fast. I remember my wife and I would always make the weekly trek out to Yu-Gi-Oh! Outlet. That's when she would play a lot more Digimon when the game was a little bit easier. She's not as crazy about the game now with how complicated it's gotten. I get it. But, you know, like, that shop was special to me. Not only is it where you and I became close and being able to see kind of a scene blossom, like come from nothing, grow into this. It's where Jesse and I met, too. Jesse started showing up about BT4-ish, and he started coming a lot, and we got really close. And we kind of got close with a lot of the people from there, and I still see him from time to time at other card shops, and it's good to, hey, man, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, it was a great time. So, so Crimson, thank you for your question. That kind of relates into it. You kind of just gotta be persistent about it. You gotta be like, go to the owner. What can I do to make this happen?
Yes.
Right? I will enter the results. I will find the links that you need.
The only requirements, 4 players, because you need 4 players to fire an event through their current software. So as long as you have 4 players and a shop owner that does have 5 seconds to send out an application, that's all you really need. Outside of that, it's just continuing to talk about the game, bring people into the game. A lot of building a community is having access to the stuff, too. So try to get into a card shop that already supports something from Bandai. Your list is fairly long now. You have the Dragon Ball Super card game Masters, which is still in support until the end of 2024 physically. So they're still going to be coming out with new product.
Sure.
You have Digimon, which is their next card game. One Piece. Battle Spirit Saga, which isn't being visibly supported, but is still getting sets for the rest of the year, to my knowledge. And then we have Dragon Ball Fusion World. And the upcoming Union Arena in October. So with all of those, if you can find a card shop that sells any of it, you can probably build up any form of tournament scene for actually any of those card games.
So I guess my next question, it's in relation to this, right? Why is it important for the actual shop to submit the results, use Bandai's official applications? Why can't they do pen and paper brackets, right?
You absolutely can have pen and paper brackets, but prize support is allocated to player counts.
Gotcha.
And your player counts are found through Bandai's services. So the reason why you have to use their tournament brackets are because you can absolutely use something like Challenge or Melee GG or any of these other online sources, pen and paper, like you just said yourself.
Sure.
But your account as a player, your Bandai TCG Plus ID, isn't being tracked by Bandai that way.
Got it.
And so when a card shop goes to place their order for the prize support, they'll be told no because they have 0 players accounted for.
Got it. Yeah.
You don't need a shop to have it.
Yeah.
You can always grow with nothing. You have to start somewhere.
Yep.
But you do need their tournament software eventually.
Yeah, and even when the Yu-Gi-Oh! Outlet closed and Wayward City first opened, well, we always reference the 4 J's that kind of started the Wayward scene. You, me, Jesse, and Jordan, right? There were the 4 J's at the time that opened up Wayward City Games. We were the 4 that were on Wayward City's docket, right? And we're able to get them that surprise support, get them that recognition that we are doing a Digimon scene. And, because I've heard that when you go to place orders for allocation, when you go to order cases, when you get your prize support, they look at that history of how many players you've, or maybe not how many players you've had, but how many times you're doing events and stuff like that. So it's all very important. So I hope that answered your question, Crimson. Thank you. Again, for anybody else curious about questions in general, Joe, we're definitely going to have you back on at some point for sure. But jump in the Two Tamers Q&A, ask us questions. If Joe's not necessarily on next week or whatever, we'll be sure to get that question over to him, and he'll have fun answering that. Anybody else, if you have any questions, feel free to jump into Discord. And while you're online looking up Discord, while you're online looking at websites, we got a couple things to plug.
Okay.
You do a great job managing the Wayward City Games social media. I love seeing the Wayward City Reels when I'm scrolling through Instagram. So we're going to have all the links in the description. Feel free to give Wayward City Games a follow on Instagram. Feel free to jump in that Discord. We are still active in that one as to we're not separated or anything like that. We just kind of wanted to stop flooding, the whole Digimon with people maybe.
Yeah.
So feel free to follow them there. We're definitely excited about this thing. So, what a great time. This is just going to be a fun episode. And I kind of wanted to ask a little bit about that prize support that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Like, do you guys get rules on, does Bandai say, okay, you need to give this out when people come play? How does that work on your guys' end?
Bandai is very specific in the way they want their stuff distributed.
Sure.
They have, when you go in, the reason why some card shops are against Bandai games is because you have to apply for their events 3 months in advance.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So you don't even get to see, as a shop owner, you don't even get to see the reveals for the prizing of the cards you have to talk about or know about.
Interesting.
But it tells you what you do with them. It'll tell you you're getting X amount of packs for X amount of players.
Sure.
It'll tell you you're getting X amount of winners. Bandai uses a 1 per 8. So everyone is supposed to get a tournament pack.
Okay.
That's supposed to be a given. But every 8 players, a winner pack gets handed out. So first you'll get a winner's pack, up to second, third, trickling down to as many as you need to with how big of a tournament you have.
Yeah.
That is their only stipulations.
Okay.
Anything else is up to a card shop or how a card shop wants to do it. Prizing, price point, additionals. That's how they want their regular tournaments to be ran. But in the case of pre-releases, they do tell you get X amount of packs per X amount of packs. They tell you are allowed to or aren't allowed to distribute specific quantities.
Gotcha.
We aren't supposed to, and you're never supposed to run a Digimon pre-release with sub 6 packs. So you're not supposed to do a 5 or a 4 or a 3 pack.
That makes sense. Yeah, because you would be it's already hard to build with just 6 packs, right?
Yes.
So doing less than that. Okay.
So there are rules, but they're pretty light
I
in
say,
the
like,
way
that's reasonable. Like, that's a rule
it's
that
minimum
makes
of
sense.
6, maximum of whatever. We could do a case pre-release.
That would be
everyone
could you
gets a
imagine?
case. Everyone gets a case. I'm not saying that's a real world that we would live in, but because Bandai doesn't have any rules against it, it's something that I could do.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that Wayward, and I don't know whose idea this was originally to do a box pre-release. So we had the box pre-release on Sunday, the last Sunday over at Wayward City Games. Sorry I couldn't make it. I was stuck at home, but I like that Wayward does both a box pre-release and the 6-pack. So it's still following the rules where you have the minimum 6-packs. We do that on the Wednesday right before the new format when a lot of people don't really want to play their old stuff anyways. They're waiting on new stuff. So I like having the option to do both because it gives like different feels, right? The amount of cards you get when you open a full box, first of all, you get 5 eggs, second of all, and then like you get consistent lines. You can make unique, you can almost make deck archetypes depending on how much support was in a set compared to the 6-pack where it's like you get what you get.
So first off, we did a 6-pack on Sunday.
Oh, did you do a 6-pack?
Because
okay.
Bandai has been distributing specific quantities during pre-release.
Sure. So they started. I think that's something that's changed, hasn't it?
Yes. They are only sending out the product to fulfill however big of a card shop you are. So there's tiers of card shops. There's store, bronze, silver, and gold.
Yeah.
Each tier has a capacity.
Sure.
They are distributing. They'll send out your capacities max and nothing more for pre-release.
Got it.
And then they're sending out the rest of your stuff after.
I see.
I don't know when they made that change, but because of that, we are worried to do a box pre-release. We did, if Wednesday goes how I'm assuming, we would have had enough to do a box pre-release with our player account.
I gotcha.
It's just one of those, it's treading really fine lines.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that
it's really fun.
It's like
though.
my script because these things you're just talking about are on there right now. So let's jump over to the allocation changes before we come back to the levels of the store. So like being a One Piece player, my wife and I like collecting the game. We're big into the One Piece franchise as well. I've seen those allocations affect that game the most, and I thought Digimon was going to be safe. So what you're saying is that they're also kind of cracking down on all the Bandai products. Is that correct?
Yes. From my understanding and the way I'm reading all of the stuff that they're saying, because again, none of this is like through emails. It's just the way they're having us apply for stuff and the way they're having us pre-order stuff.
I see.
I'm almost assuming that they're cracking down on those card shops that are selling thousands of cases to the guys on Whatnot, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
Because they are not public statementing, but they're talking about how each set going forward will have multiple waves released for it.
Got it.
They have followed suit and been honest and held their word with One Piece. We were able to do that with Digimon finally for one of the first times in a really long time. We were finally able to, in post, order more Digimon product. And that was something that we weren't able to do because of it selling out.
I see. That's really interesting. So that's something that, again, us as card players and those that just are banging at the door, Joe, you open yet? I want product. Like we don't get to see that behind the scenes of allocation changing because I remember, early in the game, I could just go get a case if I wanted, or I could just get as many boxes, at a reasonable time frame. I didn't have to wait for these waves or anything like that. And so not understanding that things are changing, it's definitely good for me to kind of have some clarity as far as that goes. So
there are different ways to get Bandai product also. Yeah. And every Bandai card game operates differently. Yeah. So it's one of those that it's like each kind of thing that we're doing is operating a little different. We just ran the Evolution Cup May 2024's last week.
That was a blast, by the way.
It was really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Every store in our local area that supports Digimon got their prizingly. And distribution is distribution, but pricing also changed. I had twice the regular packs that I was supposed to, so I doubled everyone's 2024 Evo Cup pack.
Yeah.
Some stuff like that we weren't told about or weren't talked to about up front.
So that brings me to an interesting question, right? And this is something that's just speculation. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to have an answer for this, right? So if I'm a business, if I'm Bandai, and I have X number of customers willing to give me X amount of dollars right then and there for whatever the heck they want, why wouldn't I just, if, let's say you show up, you say, I want to buy 10 cases, I want them here on this day, sell them to me. Why wouldn't I just take the money and let you do what you want with those 10 cases, right? Like ultimately as a business, if your business model as the individual local game store is not good, you're going to run out of money and you're going to fail. if you're overcharging for boxes because you're trying to scalp or whatever, and people aren't buying it, because most people are smart enough to wait for prices to drop, or they're most, there's not necessarily a lot of people that are coming into a card shop and buying 3 cases at once. They're buying a box, they're buying 2 boxes, whatever, right? So why wouldn't Bandai just give the LGS as many boxes, cases, whatever as they want? Like, do you have any insight on that?
So the real answer is the reason why people do this to begin with.
Okay.
You can take Bandai card games in general. We'll take One Piece for the biggest example, because that's where you hear the most cries for more product.
Yep.
They have these really cool manga cards. They're one in a couple of cases. Those are really, really, really awesome cards.
Yeah.
Couple of $100, exactly what you want a very low pull rate card to be. Once they get graded, they're worth a nice chunk. That's a collector's dream, to have a collector card.
Yep.
You look at the rest of the set when the game is still playable, and you see that the regular SRs or the regular cards don't have a secondary market value.
Sure.
You get a little nervous, because that means that there's too much product available.
Too much product for those.
That's a really fine line to tread.
Yeah.
We're talking about cards that have a theoretical serial number on them, right?
Sure.
Even though your manga card for One Piece doesn't have an X of 750 on it, or X of 1,000 on it, they did only print that many boxes, and they are that low in pull rate.
Yeah.
There's only that many that exist.
Yeah.
And so when you are like, well, I want 10 cases, and Jesse wants 10 cases, and I want 10 cases.
Yep.
And then the shop needs 10 cases, and every other card shop does that too.
Sure.
We start buying 30 more cases a shop.
Yeah.
Those really low pull rate cards are going to flood the market. They're going to go down in value.
Sure.
People aren't going to want them that much, and people aren't going to want to collect it as much.
Yeah, but Bandai's not making money on the secondary sales. You know what I'm saying?
Aren't.
Like Bandai, when they initially sell the product, right, that's when they make their money. They're not making money on the card shop that has singles in the display. Nope. They're not making money on TCG Player when people are selling the singles. So I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around where, if I'm Bandai and I hear that I have this much demand for this much product, why would I not just print as many boxes as people want to pay for, especially if they got to pay for them up front? I make my money up front if I'm Bandai, and the card shops have to deal with that fallout. I don't know if that's like a big brain strategy where they are trying to keep the game interested by having the
supply and demand.
Yeah.
So Bandai is starting their, what I would assume their like legacy card games, what they're planning on taking into their longer physical future with TCGs. They're seeing what Pokemon did 30 years ago, where they printed the first set 7 different ways, and people got upset at Pokemon.
Yeah.
They're seeing Magic, where there was, I can't remember the exact names, but there was 2 sets in Magic's infancy that were so flooded on the store shelves that packs were pennies then, boxes were $10 then. Those cards still haven't recovered. There's not a card worth more than $10 in that set, and it's the, I think off of memory, it's the 6th or 7th set of Magic. Bandai is later in this. They're seeing what all of these other card games did, how they all did it. And they're seeing where they lost their groups of players at the beginning. And because they're stretched thin with their ideas, they're launching a lot of IPs where a lot of other card games are singular. They're not wanting to have one flop. They're wanting them all to be successful. So they're being a little bit more strict, I think. Like I said, none of this is open. They're not talking about any of this. So
no, I get this. This is all speculation, but it is just curious to me. But that probably makes sense, right? They're doing this to keep the interest in the game afloat. Where
they don't want their games to die.
They don't want the games to die, because ultimately that's what matters, to them. I get that. Well, so that's one of the questions. And then you mentioned earlier, like, about the store levels.
Yeah.
So for somebody that is not familiar, how would you describe these store levels? What does it mean, and how do you move up on these levels?
I don't know that answer to the second, the final question, because they did what I would consider an exodus. They didn't talk to anybody up front. They didn't send out any emails.
Oh, interesting.
And one day, about a week and a half ago, we all logged into our Bandai TCG Plus organizer accounts.
Okay.
And we went to apply for our events like good little organizers.
Sure.
And we were told that we couldn't hold X amount of events because we weren't that store level anymore.
Interesting.
Or we weren't given that notice.
Huh.
And so floating, like I said, about a week and a half ago,
Yeah.
you heard about a couple of stores losing store access to gold.
Yeah.
There's a handful of gold stores in our area. We live in a fairly fruitful zone where there's a handful of really high operating shops in our area for Bandai.
Yeah.
Some of them just slipping. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what makes that decision. I don't know how they decide that.
Yeah.
Because in the same form, they're also hand-picking shops to run in-store regionals for games.
Yeah.
You can't just openly apply to that. Well, you can, but you get waitlisted, and then they tell you if you get approved or not. It's not just to click the button, do the thing.
Sure.
They're changing the way they operate it.
Maybe they've been having some growing pains, and they're starting to maybe dial back some things. And
store, bronze, silver, gold is your player quantities. It's how much you are allocated to get for prize support or pre-release support.
Sure.
It's what the game tells your distributor they cannot give you more than.
Sure.
As a basic store, I believe it's 8 players. As a bronze store, I believe it's 16, 24, 32.
Got it.
So as a gold store, we can operate regular weekly events with 32 prize packs.
Sure.
So we can have 4 winners. We can seat 32, and that's how many we can get for their series. So they assume that if we're a gold store, we're going to need 32 prize packs for however many events per week we run for that length. And that's what they send out all at once.
I gotcha. That's really interesting. So what do you think of Bandai's TCG Plus app? Do you like how it seems to me? And, I understand the app's not perfect, right? I'm not going to sit there and expect Bandai to be perfect in everything that they do. But the fact that I can walk in to the store with the barcode, scan it, and I'm in, it seems pretty convenient. And also, well, ideally, if I was a good card shop goer, I would sign up ahead of time.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just don't know what my Wednesday is going to be like, and it's hard for me to know if I'm going, so I generally do the barcode. But I like the fact that you can just kind of sign up for the events on the app, and you're in as long as you paid. Store acknowledges. What do you think on the app and the way it works and all that? What are your thoughts?
I have to use a lot of different apps. And let me preface this by saying, at least we get to use apps. There are some games that don't even use apps still.
Yeah.
And they're not small games. They're like the quad A games that don't have apps still for their TCG physical games. The fact that we have an app is phenomenal. The fact that it does work for 5 or 6 games is really awesome.
I see.
Using it as a player, trying to use it the way a player is supposed to use it is terrible, because you have to go in and click the event. You have to confirm the event before it'll show you the proper things, and then it doesn't track the distances right. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't track the dates right when you open it.
Sure.
Using it as a player is a little frustrating, but knowing you can click other, have that barcode ready, and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I really like that part.
Its reporting results system is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know exactly how to use it. It doesn't stop working on you. It doesn't break on you.
Yeah.
The few people that don't have access to the app can still report in person, which is amazing. It's exactly what we want from the actual device working.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And it does have a good deck builder. I know we
used
don't
it.
like using deck builders on our phones because computers are way easier and they integrate with the things that we use way better.
Well,
but the deck builder on the phone does do work.
I always like to refer to a joke I heard where it's like there's small screen and big screen activities. You know what I'm saying? And like deck building seems like a big screen activity.
That's fair.
But I think maybe that's more of like, this is the deck that I'm thinking of making, and I'm picking 100 cards and narrowing it down to 50 versus this is the deck I know I'm playing at the event. I'm just going to type it in and good to go. So I've never used that deck builder. I'll have to give it a shot one of these days. But so out of all of the card game scenes that you have at Wayward City Games, because you guys do so many events, not just Digimon, not just One Piece, not just Bandai in general, right? Do you have a favorite of these parent companies like Bandai, Wizards of the Coast, Pokemon that you guys work with? Obviously, it doesn't have to be Bandai just because we're Digimon fans here. And what do you like that some of these parent companies do that maybe others don't? Or
personally,
Yeah.
and now there's two owners at Wayward City Games.
Yep.
There's Logan, which isn't currently here. And
we'll
myself.
have him on one day. We will.
He
have
should
him
be
on.
here eventually.
Yes.
But there's two of us, so I don't necessarily have the singular conversation windows
Yeah.
with all of these companies.
No,
So
I gotcha.
I don't feel my singular vote here should be taken wholly at heart.
No, this is just us talking.
But Bandai is a blast to work with. And that's not because you guys are a
Sure.
Digimon channel. That's not because that's how we met. That's not because that's my passion thing.
Yeah.
They are a real treat.
Yeah.
They do come with their problems, scheduling events 3 months out with not knowing anything. That's a little confusing and frustrating.
I gotcha.
But they are very upfront with how you're supposed to do stuff. When there's an issue, you can message them, and they are usually able to get back to you in a amount of time.
Sure.
Where you can't really say that about some of these other places.
I gotcha.
They also are really cordial.
Yeah.
We got a marketing kit from Bandai that came with a couple of cool little cardboard dial. I don't even know what to call them. They're display things. They're really awesome. We just ran events and they sent it to us with our prize support one day.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Didn't get an email about it. It was
Sure.
just like a thank you for being our guys or whatever. It was other card games just don't do that.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Some of them do. Bandai's a treat to work with.
Yeah. That's awesome. I like hearing about that. And it is kind of nice with all the fact that you guys have such a diverse scene of particular games and stuff like that. But as a card shop, right, how do you know what card games to focus on, right? So this goes outside of the scope of Digimon. See, for me, like, if I'm obviously not a card shop owner, I have zero experience in the field, so take my word, with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time looking at, the top 5 sales of card games and being like, these are the 5 that I'm going to support. How does that work on your end? What card games do you guys decide to support, and how do you guys go about doing that?
We had a luxurious situation getting into Wayward City Games when we did.
Oh,
Because it already had a player group for some of these things. But continuing to outstretch our arm and figure out what is going to happen and how it is going to happen has been a little challenging.
Sure.
We've started Lorcana and Star Wars. We're about to start Union Arena. We've started Dragon Ball Fusion World. And we're starting a bunch of other things. We have League Access
So
for Pokemon
many
finally.
games. Yeah.
We started 5 or 6 games in the last 4 months. You have to have people that come in that want it.
Got it.
Or you have to have players in your shop who already want it.
Sure.
Because as a shop owner,
Yeah.
you can throw your money at the wall and whatever sticks can stick.
Yeah.
But that's why you end up with a bargain bin of
Sure.
dusty stuff.
Yep.
Having player groups come in that play games and hearing about other card games, getting excited about other card games.
I gotcha.
It's one of those, you have to build up a community first. Digimon and One Piece, these other card games, had a community that started. Union Arena is about to come out. How many Digimon players are excited about Union Arena? It's just another Bandai card game.
Yeah.
But we already have a small player group there, and that's not even the ones that are being commercialized into it through YouTube Reels or Facebook or Instagram.
Sure.
It's a really cool card game that has a bunch of anime IPs in it.
Yeah.
They have some signature cards in the first couple of sets.
Yeah.
Pretty decent.
Like if I could just get a Saitama, because I think One Punch Man's in there, where he's just got that hilarious face, saying okay, whatever. Like that would draw me in. You know what I'm saying?
But there's some small movement just internally.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's already 4 players
Sure.
that are willing to play it is all that it really takes, because you have to have it to have them play it.
I gotcha.
If you don't support the game at all, you'll never have it played at all, and
Correct.
then you'll never know.
Yeah.
There's some games that you don't take that leap for. I'm gonna stare very deeply at Kickstarter and crowdfunded projects.
Okay.
Even though they're really cool and some of them have phenomenal ideas.
Yeah.
We have missed the mark on some of them. There's a couple of Kickstarter card games that have done phenomenally well.
Yeah.
But those type of things are the things that you don't want to test your luck on.
Sure.
If Pokemon, the Pokemon Company International, decided that they were making a second card game and it was based off of some completely new thing that they did out of nowhere, I'd probably still start it and try to get players for it because it's the Pokemon Company International. Same way that Magic the Gathering. If Magic the Gathering people at Wizards of the Coast was like, hey, we're doing a second card game, this is it.
Yeah.
I'd probably try supporting it because it's Wizards of the Coast.
Sure.
But if you, and this is no offense to you,
No,
if you came up to me and were like, hey, dude, I'm doing this card game, crowdfund me, I would personally, but the owner of a shop, I'd have to really stand on my own legs and say, how many people do you have that are already backing you?
Yeah.
How many players do we have locally? And as a shop owner, it's way harder to get into those crowdsourced projects. So sometimes, like I said, you miss the mark.
Yeah, I tell the story all the time. I'm a big Transformers fan as well as Digimon and stuff like that. And when the Transformers card game was being made by Wizards of the Coast, so this is kind of how it all ties in. I was excited about it. Obviously, COVID was bad, and there was not a lot of love for the game. I didn't think there was a single shop that played it. I still have all my cards. I still have decks. I still like to play it. But I couldn't just come to you with a dead card game. Yeah. Be like, hey, man, let's set up a weekly Transformers night and let's do it. Like, that's not going to work.
I almost found 4 players. I'm missing the 4th.
So you even finding 4 people, me, my brother, you, okay, we need the 4th. No, so that's such a good take on that and stuff. And not only that, but you're fighting for a resource that you can never get more of, which is time and days of the week. Yeah. Right? Because you have 7 days of the week. The card shop's open 7 days of the week. Yep. And you set up X number of events on each day. You only have so much room inside the shop to run those. You have a hard time picking what days do what. Like for me, Friday is synonymous with Magic. Yeah. Like you can't put Friday Night Magic on a different night. You don't like nobody wants to play that on a Tuesday. That has to be Friday Night Magic. But for us as Digimon, we kind of just set up Wednesdays. Yeah. I don't even remember how we picked Wednesday. I think that was just a day that worked for everybody's schedule when we started the scene. And
I think it was Wednesday or Friday, and it was because of my personal schedule. Yeah. And I think we all decided that Wednesday worked. Yeah. And 3 or 4 years ago.
And now we just have Wednesday night Digimon that's now like engraved into my routine that I just love so much. So do you guys have trouble picking days, like if a new card shop comes or a new card game comes, or like, for example, Lorcana and Star Wars? Like, how did you fit those into your schedule?
There was a lot of space and a lot of time. Okay. You would be surprised how many players you can fit if you know the player counts that are coming up.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
One of the things that's really surprising to hear is player counts for all games are down. Card game play is up, but player counts across all games are down. Sure. Because there's more card games that exist.
Yeah.
So
maybe a lot more people playing at home. A lot of people playing over webcam.
Talking a little remorsefully, a couple of months back, we were sitting in the almost 30 player weekly numbers twice weekly. It was really impressive. Yeah. It was outstanding. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting it ever. And now we're down to 16 or 17 people weekly, twice weekly, which is still awesome. Yeah. But the numbers are half of what they were. There's also 4 new card games, and most of those players that you were seeing are still playing card games.
They're kind of moving over to other card games. So instead of one game having 30 players, you have an overall growth of general players, as a whole, but they're split up amongst these 4 games or whatever. Yes.
They finally found their favorite game, or we're finally supporting their favorite game. Like I said, card game play, like nationwide, is up. You can read articles about it. I can't remember the last one that was written.
I mean, when I was a kid, I'm sure. You and I are about the same age. Like card games were for nerds, and it wasn't cool to do. And like obviously Pokemon cards were cool, right? But nobody played the game. It was because it was a well-known franchise and well-known IP and all this stuff. Where if I showed up with my Yu-Gi-Oh deck, people didn't think I was cool anymore or whatever. And now it's different. Now it's trendy to play Magic, Commander. Now it's cool to collect Pokemon cards and have all this stuff. So it's interesting how that whole change has happened.
We were all trapped in. We were all trapped inside. Yeah, it's post COVID and post Malone. It's also Logan Paul. A couple of things happened that none of us were expecting.
Oh yeah.
COVID trapped everyone inside.
Yeah.
After you finished Netflix the third time, you try to want to find a hobby.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did. Board games, everyone plays board games now. Before COVID, I can't remember finding a group that ever wanted to play a board game.
Yeah, and it's more than just, Monopoly. It's Clue. Sorry, right? It's like these
Descent.
unique... Yeah, like my wife
Imperium.
and I love... Yeah.
There's vast... These board games take weeks to... they're set up to... Your session takes 3 hours, and that's how it's said on the box. Your session.
Yeah. And that's not even with the expansions that come out.
No, it's insane.
Yeah.
COVID hit, and so everyone was inside. Everyone wanted a hobby. People got nostalgic, and so people looked back for Pokemon or Magic,
They're
and
old
then
hobbies
saw
that they liked as a kid. Chasing that feeling.
Dragon Ball came out, or saw that because in 2020, not the dawn of COVID, but pretty close to the start, Digimon started.
That's when Transformers died. Like the same day they announced Transformers died, Digimon started.
I had no idea.
And so I'll never forget. I was literally at a hotel. I was doing a work trip in Pendleton, Oregon. I was working on a down machine, and I'm sitting there on my phone. I scroll, see the news, Transformers is dead, and then I scroll and see Digimon started. So it was like the birth of this bigger thing as this happened. So I always joke about that, but yeah, no, it is crazy seeing that what COVID did for collectors. And what like icons of social media like Logan Paul and stuff.
Logan Paul, the $1 million Charizard.
When he walked out on stage with the Charizard on a chain, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Charizard's not even my favorite Pokemon.
No.
But like what that has done for us that love these types of franchises, that love these types of universes, the games, the cards, whatever. It's been a good thing for the growth in general, and it's nice. And I remember, like, I used to play Magic a lot. I never played Commander. I'm a Modern fan, but I always built bad Modern decks because I'm not a competitive Magic player. I want to do fun combos, so I should play Commander. But anyways, besides the point.
Okay.
But I remember watching some YouTube videos, seeing Post Malone playing Commander with other people, and it's just like seeing how many people that either have never seen Magic in action, never played Commander, but maybe are Post Malone fans drawn into that. So it's crazy to see what the world has become and this whole card game scene and stuff like this. But
celebrities made
with celebrities
cardboard asset.
Yeah.
$1 million Charizard is now theoretically what a painting is.
Yeah.
It's an investment piece, which is something that a lot of people before that weren't really excited about Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic when we were younger.
Sure.
It's something that we were all scoffed away from. Well, why are you wasting your money on these things? They'll never be valuable. Why are you wasting your time playing them? You're not learning anything.
Yeah, if only I would have saved my Pokemon cards. But
would
also
buy
as
a house.
Kid, but also as a kid, I didn't sleeve them.
No.
Also, as a kid, I didn't protect them. Also, as a
they didn't sell those types of things back then.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, at least.
Yeah. Like it wasn't a thing that you would, sometimes we have some players that come in the shop that pile shuffle their decks, and like you cringe a little bit.
Yep.
You're just like, oh my god. And maybe I shouldn't be talking because I jam my cards like this when I shuffle. So. But like, it's like as a kid, I wasn't sleeving cards. I was like taking my Yu-Gi-Oh cards and just shuffling them up and throwing them everywhere and scattering them around unprotected. Okay. So it's funny to see that. But with the growth of these card games and with the growth of protecting these cards, what other alternative products have you been seeing, like deck boxes, the way individual booster boxes come with the promo card? What stuff as a card shop owner do you like seeing, distributors bring to you to sell in your shop? What kind of things are you looking to sell to people?
That's a tough question.
I know.
You want to reword that one?
Yeah. I'm doing a horrible job interviewing. You're only supposed to ask one question at a time and then kind of go like that.
We're fine.
So what types of products do you like?
New things that are coming out?
New things are you liking to see that are coming out?
At least from my situation behind the counter and the way it works with my portion of the ownership, I'm not really seeing these crazy guy running up to me, knocking on my door, hunting me down to find it. It's scrolling through this week's newists, making sure I hit deadlines, making sure I hit the pre-order windows.
Sure.
It's also just putting your mind out there and trying to really think about what would move.
Yeah.
Dragon Shield card sleeves. It's a prime example.
It is. They've got such a good hold on the market.
Phenomenal work.
Yeah.
they come out with a new series of art sleeves for DC 86, I believe it was. There was a Wonder Woman and a Superman one.
Sure.
There were regular cost sleeves.
Can't forget about the Ron Weasley sleeves either.
Some people asked about them. We picked those up. They're coming out with a limited edition sleeve that is supposed to be a dual matte style. It's the only way they're expressing it, but it's a comic book variant of I think it's Batman and Superman.
Interesting.
And their like shelf price is $28.
Wow. For a box of sleeves.
For 100 sleeves.
Yeah.
Like a regular Dragon Shield. It's just the type of sleeves they are. That's their sticker price. Stuff like that, we really have to think of, do we have killer Superman or Batman fans?
Yeah.
Or are we just going to miss that one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even as I'm a huge Batman fan as well, but like, I probably wouldn't get that.
No.
But like, you know, as a card sleeve, what I like is a sleeve that's going to last. But at the end of the day, I am going to change the sleeves, throw them away, and re-sleeve them when either a sleeve breaks, they start getting sticky due to my greasy fingers or whatever. But it's just like, and even like the Digimon sleeves. Like, I love what they are putting on the sleeves and stuff like that. But by the time you want to protect those sleeves, you're getting an overshield or over sleeve to protect it. And then it's almost like too big to put in normal deck boxes. So then you have, oh, I need a new deck box. So then you have, well, are these sleeves even worth protecting when I can just get regular Dragon Shields and use any deck box? It's such an interesting way to go.
Come from a unique environment.
Yeah.
Back when I was playing, because I was playing like 3-4 different tournaments weekly.
Yeah.
A long time ago now. I was a fan of art sleeves.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the art sleeves that peel.
Sure.
The art sleeves that people don't like.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of artwork. I love artwork. I'm a really big fan of anime. And so when Y Shorts was doing a lot of their anime runs of sleeves, not the really gross ones. I don't own those
I know
ones,
what you mean.
But
yeah.
I own a couple of like Saga of Tanya the Evil sleeves, and that's a really cool show that if you guys haven't watched, you guys might like.
I have not heard
I'm not gonna dive into it. But using those sleeves, I tore one time.
Yeah.
I have used over sleeves for basic color sleeves ever since. For the past 5-6 years.
You're used to that bigger feeling
I've
sleeve.
always owned a 100+ deck box because my 60-card triple-sleeved deck fits in a 100-card box. So I've never had that issue because I've always kind of needed to do it that way anyways.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Very different type of player style.
Yeah. No, it's funny how just differences between people's needs, wants, preferences are, because I'm sitting here and I can see Jesse's collection binder here down at the bottom, and I like the Dragon Shield 4x3 codex that have a little slot that you can pull out and write a label on. That's what I like to use for my collection binders, and they sell out really quickly on Amazon and stuff like that, you know, and different people have different preferences for binders, sleeves, mat tubes, deck boxes, whatever. So it's always interesting to find those unique products that end up doing well and stuff like that. But man, this has just been a fun episode so far. Let's see, what's my next question for you? So this is actually a really good question that was Jesse's idea, and I really like that he added this to this. But what impact has online retailers had on LGS? And I'll preface that first with anything you need to buy, waywardcitygames.com. Feel free, jump over there. Go buy your singles. I know you guys have been working your butts off.
We aren't currently shipping out, so you have to be local for in-store pickup right now.
Got it.
In the future, it will be mass ship. We'll be fine.
Keep an eye on that. Shipping will be coming your way. But back to the question, I had to just throw that plug in there. What impact has online retailers, you know, like Amazon, whatever, these big companies that have nothing to do with card games in their DNA, had on the local game store?
For us... And I'm going to say that very particularly.
Sure.
For us,
Sure.
It hasn't really done that much.
Okay.
We try to keep below the sticker, which is you're not really supposed to, as often as possible. Yeah. And that's because there is no sticker price anymore. They changed to a suggested retailer price across the board for most TCGs. And that means that they want you to get that, but they're not going to yell at you if you don't get that, whether it's too low or too high.
Sure.
You can see it around you, and you can find card shops that are selling Digimon booster boxes at $100+ on launch. And you can find them on TCG Player for $80, $85.
Yeah.
It's going to keep card shops honest.
Yeah.
And that's what it's done. Amazon used to be really bad about 2 or 3 weeks after a set for Magic the Gathering. They would post pallets worth of quantity of the newest set for lower than distributor pricing for a card shop.
Yeah.
And so
really
for Magic, you had to have a really tried and true community of players to you rather than the game. For Amazon and those fire sales, that stopped. That's few and far between. That doesn't happen anymore.
Good. That seemed pretty bad when they were doing that whole thing.
Online retailers are phenomenal for the game because they will have their product at SRP or higher.
Okay.
And they have so much quantity that your card shop right down the road isn't going to make that sale if they have 4 times the price on that product.
Sure.
And that's a good thing because they shouldn't be doing that.
I mean, I will avoid a store selling a product at a price that I don't think is right.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
even
there's
if they have
fair market
more
value
product.
exists.
Yeah.
That's why you go into stores all the time. That's why you go into Safeway instead of Fred Meyer's or whatever. You feel that your value is there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is a question that I kind of just thought of as we were sitting here talking. And this is kind of to do with, we always talk about alternative formats in the game. We talked about like 3v3 that the Digimon did at the events that they've been doing for the regionals and stuff like that. So I'll split this up into 2 questions so we can keep them divided so I don't screw up again. But for an alternative format like Commander, right, how would you say that has impacted the card game scene, right? Because to me, it seems if I'm a modern player, if I'm a standard player, I'm coming in on rotation, I'm buying boxes, I'm doing my thing, and it seems like there'd be more money for the shop to be made with those types of formats versus Commander, where it's all singleton and people are just buying their singles from anywhere and they're relatively cheap. What do you think of these alternative formats as a shop owner's perspective?
So this is from me, myself, and I. I won't even wear the badge right now.
Sure.
I don't think that card games need to physically support alternate formats.
Okay.
It kills card games.
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I was going with.
You can
that,
see
right?
it with, and there's more than just Magic, but the list is short.
Yeah.
You have Pokemon with its expanded formats.
Sure.
They used to, at one point, include expanded cards in their sealed current in-print deck.
Oh, that's interesting.
They stopped doing that. I think it was in Black and White era. It was in early 2010 era. I think it was pre-2012.
Okay.
They stopped doing that because they switched to standard-only regionals for a while, and expanded cards weren't even usable. So players were getting mad and not buying stuff.
Sure.
You see Magic not doing draft booster boxes anymore. If you know about Magic, and you would go, well, I don't even know why, I don't know how.
Yeah.
Drafting and having a draftable experience is important for a card game if you're going to play it sealed.
Got it.
Digimon, for an example, is not a draftable card game.
Yeah.
Because you do not have a guaranteed level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6 in a pack.
Yeah.
Or
And
whatever
the
broader focus rules are for that game.
Yeah, and pre-release obviously has to change the rules with the color to support your point.
With Magic in Ikoria, which was back in 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
There was booster boxes and collector's boxes.
Sure.
They had some decks.
Sure.
The next set, they had draft boxes, set boxes, collector boxes. And as a player, you would go, well, what's the difference?
That's how I feel.
They made the set boxes a not draftable experience, and then they took the foils out of the draft. So you could only get foils in set boosters. You could only draft experience in draft packs.
Got it.
They don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make anyone happy, and it doesn't make anyone money.
I see.
So physically supporting alternate formats, I don't believe is actually smart for the game.
Sure.
But you can have really thriving formats across the board.
Yeah.
Pokemon still does support expanded and standard.
Yeah.
They don't do it physically anymore. Yu-Gi-Oh! has Edison format, Goat format, and a handful of others that I'm going to space the name of right now.
Sure.
But card shops are responsible for upholding those rules, and it's basically time era.
Yeah.
You have like a pre-2006, pre-2012 situation.
Yeah. So like for Pokemon, you're doing the standard format in the shop is what you guys are doing. You guys are sticking with
because whatever the local regional is, we're going to keep on track with that to get our players ready.
See, I didn't know if you like took the approach of what's going to sell, but the way that you describe this is what the regional cares about. That makes a lot of sense to me.
That's what I care about. If this next regional that they come out with says, "Hey, we're doing expanded," we are an expanded shop until that regional is over.
That makes sense. You're helping players being able to get that competitive edge.
Yes.
If they want to go to, play in regionals.
Prime example, if we were to ever do an Evo Cup that was only 3v3s and we knew about it for 4 months, I would probably tell our shop, like, hey, Wednesday or Sunday, take your pick. One of these are going to be that event. And it's going to be that way until that big thing is over.
Sure.
It's really important for me as a player to prep my players for good stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So like with Commander, I think my brother Jacob obviously comes and plays, but I don't necessarily do. So, he describes to me like you kind of just buy like a day pass and you can sit in the shop and play Commander with all your friends and stuff like that. That seems like a good way for you guys as a shop to make your money, support the community that wants to play this game, but not necessarily have to rely on people coming to you and want to buy $100 10-cent singles.
It's tough. It's a weird line to cross because Commander is a casual format, so no one ever wants to pay for it.
Yep.
The difference is we have set seating aside for those players for an entire day.
Yeah.
Other places you can see on their schedule that they support Commander for an hour or two.
Yeah.
And if you've never played Commander, you wouldn't know this.
It's not an hour game,
It's not even an hour game sometimes.
It's longer.
And so you don't even get to play 2 games for their designated time zone for you.
Sure.
Otherwise they fill up.
Yeah.
So we opened it up for the whole day. We locked half the room off. Not actually. It's not behind tape. But they have their space to play, and it's been really awesome.
Sure.
Commander decks themselves and singles themselves are a tricky idea.
Yeah.
Every new set is a better set for Commander.
Yeah, I agree.
There is a Commanderification, is what it's considered, happening in Magic, to where everything is a legendary creature now.
Yep.
Everyone wants the new stuff. Yeah. So even though there are amazing cards in Magic's age, there are really good cards coming out in Magic's current.
Yeah, I kind of like the way that they do release that. Like, they have their standard format that drops a box, and in that you can find pieces for other formats, but it's not necessarily geared towards that.
Yes.
But at the same time, they do a good job of trying to help both just in case. So I will say I do like
I don't think physically, again, backing up to answering the question, I don't think physically supporting alternate formats is smart.
Sure.
Doing it for the game or the game's longevity is really, really important.
So the reason why I'm kind of thinking about alternative formats, right, is because we get some people asking for like more of that 3v3 stuff that Digimon is doing. Like an alternative format like that, do you think that is good for the sake of Digimon? Do you think it would be bad for the sake of Digimon? It seems like because the cards are still the standard cards, you know what I'm saying? That it wouldn't be bad, but
is good for competitive.
Gotcha.
Depending on how it's ran, because there's 2 different types of ways to run 3v3s. You can either run teams, me, you, and Jesse, for example, right this second. We're on a team, and then Basil, Justin, and Arthur are on a team for sake of conversation.
Sure.
We can all play a best of 1.
Yeah.
And the team that won 2 of 3 takes that set, and you only have to play best of 1.
Gotcha.
Or you play 2 of 3 that same exact way.
Yeah.
But it'll be the 2 players versus, or the 2 wins versus the 1. And the reason why that's important is you actually get more deck variety in what you're playing against because it locks you into a different type of bracket.
Yeah.
Your points aren't all lined up. Your IDs aren't all lined up. It rips it out. Because instead of saying, you are Jeff, I am Joseph, you are Jesse, we are Team Digital Gate Studios, and we roll die to figure out who plays who.
Got it.
You don't get to theory craft a counter deck in advance in a competitive game.
I gotcha.
Which is really interesting because you're also one player. You can only play 4 copies of a card across all 3 of your decks. And so that means that all 3 of your opponent's decks are going to have to be different. You can't just say, okay, it's going to be 2024 national season. We're expecting to see Anubises all over the place. Counter Anubis or play Anubis. You have to know that you're playing against 3 different decks, no matter what the format is. So you have to be really well versed in the game. 3v3s are phenomenal, and I'd love to support them.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if we can set something up in the future. Maybe try it out someday. Who knows? So there's been a lot of talk with the block numbers on the cards about maybe a rotation, maybe not a rotation. I don't want one personally. Curious on your thoughts, because you are an owner and you deal with cards that have rotation and sets that have rotation. What's your opinion on if Digimon should get a rotation or not?
I don't think it's a rotation first. Just very openly. Dragon Ball, Super Card Game Masters now, never had a rotation. When they did a rotation, they reset their own card game. So we have BT and EX. Assume 5 years down the line, we're getting BB01 instead of BT. That would be their clean slate attempt to fix Digimon, where they would have rotated us. But that's at least how Dragon Ball did it.
Got it.
Digimon's their second card game. We don't know how or if or when they're going to. But I can tell you that they're identifiers, because Dragon Ball cards have identifiers also. They didn't do anything there. They might not do anything here. But saying that with my full chest and confidence isn't something...
No one's going to hold you if you're wrong. It's just more like your opinion on supporting rotation. Because like, if I was a card shop owner... not that I'd feel bad, but it's almost like, hey, I know you just bought this Magic set from me 6 months ago, but it's now rotated out. You can't play it here legally, during our standard events or whatever.
Rotation games are really good for new players. Because their standard sets, the things that they have to focus on, the things that they have to learn is very, very small. Getting a couple of 8-year-olds into a rotating Digimon card game would be fairly easy, because you would have to learn this 500 card chunk instead of this 10,000 card chunk. Not that we're there yet.
But I know
examples. For non-rotating formats, it's phenomenal for game development, game growth, player growth. When you get to reach back from 10 years plus on and go, wait, this one card stops everything that's happening in the current meta scene or my current local scene. And it's a 5-cent card, and you go, ooh, yes. Someone else is doing that too. Eventually, you're going to see that at the big tables. And eventually, you're going to get a reprint of that card that didn't used to do anything. There's a lot of cards in Digimon's current age. We can look back at some of the other DigiTubers videos and see some of those if there was a side deck videos. There's plenty of cards in this game that could one day be usable. They're just fringe cards.
They're just waiting on certain support.
Just waiting on one card to come out to make them crazy.
Well, this is going to be my last question for you as a card shop owner. What do you think the Digimon scene is going to look like in 5 years from now? What's your 5-year plan?
Depends on what they want to do with the game, realistically. If they keep the same trend, we would probably see the same amount of growth leveled out by the capacity of our players. We were a really casual group of people.
Definitely.
Super casual group of people. Not necessarily hyper, but we weren't gritting our teeth to win.
I agree.
We have since had a change in that, but the game itself changed too.
100%.
We can bellyache all that we want to, that we don't get to play our cool, fun, cute things anymore and do well at our local scene. I'm guilty as well. But the thing that actually happened is we hit BT9. We hit the X antibody format. Then we hit BT10. We hit cross format. They're completely different ways to play that if you're still gripping onto a BT8 deck, you're probably going to get swallowed.
Uber competitive. I remember when Crossheart first came out, and it was like, holy crap, this deck is so fast.
That's just from game design. Now we have aces, and if you're not using aces, you're not keeping up. By game design, you have to follow suit. But you're still seeing a couple of cards from BT1 or BT2 creep its way into decks all the time. If they started rotating us, I want an RBO2 and an RBO. I want an RB set every year.
Yeah.
Because I want access to some of those cards that will be usable for my current deck.
Yeah.
The worst thing I want to do as a card game player and card shop owner that's lose catalogs of cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a player saying, oh, this new Lucamon Satan mode could go really well with the BT4 Lucamon, but it hasn't been reprinted in 5 years, so I can't play it. That feels really bad. You'll wait for a reprint to be able to play it.
Sure.
And that doesn't feel good as a player because you'll always think your deck is better.
I gotcha.
Because it is.
Yeah. It's an interesting time where we're at. So now I'm going to transition to you real briefly about you as a fellow card game player.
Yes.
BT16 is basically here now.
Yes.
Are you excited for this set?
I almost have Tyrant Max rarities
I'm
already.
so... I had to ask you this because I know that you have been one of the most loyal green fans ever. And not only that, you are a very loyal green insect fan.
Yes.
So I'm so happy for you because not only am I a fan of Tyrant Garboterimon, I know you are huge into the insect line and being able to do all this stuff. I mean, it's going to be a fun time to be a Digimon fan because I remember when EX1 came out, we got this green Tentomon that could do a lot of stuff for insects, and we're like, but there's not a lot of insects.
Don't dangle that over my head.
Yeah, don't tease us like this.
No. That was the last Tentomon I had for like 900 days was the EX1 Tentomon.
Yeah, you would get Greymons, Goblinmons, but no more Tentomons. Then all of a sudden now we have this beautiful Altar Tentomon that we got last set. So it's so crazy.
Love it.
But BT16 is going to be a fun set. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this whole thing, man. And you ready to do some cards of the week?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the guest, so I'll save the best for last. That way we end on a high note with you. My card of the week is going to actually be the BT5 Shoutmon DX. So this is such a random take for those of you who probably have no idea what the heck I'm talking about and why this is a card of the week for me. This is why I got to end on you because you're going to be relevant. But I started this thing where I'm going to try to start streaming The Sim.
Okay.
Every Friday. So today, after this debuts, I'm going to try to be on sometime between 9 and 10 a.m. Try to be on until about 3 or 4 p.m., depending on what my schedule looks like. I'm working from home. So if I get a work call, I got to drop off. But I'll let everyone know I'm streaming. But I ended up, having a good group of about 5-6 people at a time here and there, in and out. And I was streaming random games. I was playing games with some fans. And having a blast just talking to them, talking shit when I was making a bad move and stuff. There was this one game where I did the whole thing right to set up the Ragna to end the game, and I just completely... Because, I had Galmon's end of turn stuck in my head and the end of turn DNA, where I was like, oh, yeah, I can pay memory and do this thing, and my turn ended, and I didn't get to trigger anything. I messed that up. Anyway, so I'm playing with a fan. It's actually a fan of ours that we met down in Pasadena that came up and talked to us. And he messaged me on Discord, and we jumped on. We played a couple games. He showed me some deck ideas for a red-blue flare deck, a red-based blue flare. And it just got me thinking about the draw engine that he created in this deck using Muchomon and Guilmon as great level 3s just to get some eggs. Typical red rookie rush. But that line of thinking, that thought process, led me to go back to one of my favorite decks back in BT5, which was at the time called Shoutmon Megazoo, where I would play the 5-cost, 8K Vermiliomon, Triceramon, hard play it, only give my opponent 5 memory. And this was not my idea. I heard from this on a YouTube video. I can't remember what I was watching. Maybe it was a live stream. Somebody was talking about this deck. Then you go Shoutmon DX and you blitz the next turn, and you can tuck adding security attack. You can tuck Greymon to blitz into people, right? And it was one of my favorite decks in BT5. And so what I did is now that we got a new Omni Shoutmon that can Digivolve in the raising area, I've turned that from a Shoutmon Megazoo deck to a Shoutmon Turbo deck where I can blitz, control the board, do all this fun stuff. So my card of the week stems from the awesome interactions that I've had playing on the sim. Go ahead, jump on, join me if you see me on there. And also just having fun revisiting an old deck of mine.
Okay.
What do you got for us?
Hidden potential discovered.
Heck yeah, man. Okay.
Nope. I'm gonna stand on a soapbox for 2 seconds.
Okay.
Bandai, I know you watch these things. Who are you? You're on both of us.
Yes.
Bandai, I know you watch these at this point. Ban HPD and hard errata every level 6 to say Digivolves for 1 less, or unrestrict the card already. It hurts playing your color, and it only feels good in Bloomlord. Restrict Bloomlord instead. That's my take.
That's your take.
Card of the week is HPD. It's the card that's got me by the neck the most.
I gotcha. That's funny, man. That's a great take. I love the card, obviously. Super excited about that. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Joe, thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad we're finally able to make this happen. Congratulations to one successful year of hopefully many to come. Being an awesome card game owner. We love going to Wayward. We love supporting it. If you're not already, jump in the Wayward City Games Discord. Follow them on Instagram. Follow them on social media. Go ahead, purchase your cards from Wayward City Games. And I'm gonna put out maybe a challenge. Maybe that's not the word I'm looking for. If you are from out of area and you are traveling for work, if you're traveling for pleasure, whatever it is, you come to Wayward City Games. Tell Joe Jeff's gonna pay for your entry the first time, and he'll put it on my tab. And I will buy your Digimon entry if you are an out-of-town visitor.
Yeah, I got you.
I want to grow this. I want to make this happen. I absolutely love this card shop. It's been a pleasure. And we'll be sure to see you guys next time. Thank you so much.
Later.